Hey guys, it's Matt. This is a TPS video. There's not much to see here, and the first topic won't be the only topic. If the Magenda is not for you, once we get through this article or the other articles that talk about the great purpling or the streetlights around the United States and Canada and other parts of the world becoming this purple hue, which many have been sent to my attention, it is inside what we would consider to be magenta. If this topic is not for you, then once we get through the articles, or mostly spending time on this Business Insider article about the streetlights, by accident, of course, just explained away with every excuse in the world, turning purple or magenta, I'm going to get on to some other things. I would like to start talking about the difference between you and me and the creeps. It's not a Jim Carrey movie, Me, Myself, and Irene, or something like You and Me and the Creeps. We're the same. I'm not going to do it. You and me are the same. The real souls and spirits, the highest, I think the highest type of spiritual entity that's here is you and me. The lowest seems to be the Santa Claus Schwabs. Now, there could be background players or organic portals or NPCs, which you can't even, I guess, classify as a spiritual being. I don't, if they're background players, they're background players. But what are these creeps? How are they different from us? And to start that conversation after the Magenda, and if anybody's new, I'm going to say it quickly. I even say it in my sleep sometimes. I just wake up screaming it, Magenta. But magenta is a color, and the second word we've turned into Magenda. That's like agenda. So it's the Magenta agenda, which becomes the Magenda. Did you get that? Okay. So the creeps versus us, I mean, they seem to be trying to play out this grand script, or like many have talked about, bring the book of Revelations into actualization and lay down a script that then somehow they have to fulfill. I mean, we would never need to do that. How they try to bring this script to fruition, throwing a bunch of words out, I have no idea what they mean. I hope I'm using them correctly. It just proves how different we are from them. So there will be, if you're like this, I'm tired of this purple magenta horse shit. If you're tired of this topic, after we get through the article, then we'll go on to some other things that you might like better. But I think this whole magenta thing is fascinating. And for anybody new, we'll touch on potentially what we believe in, and those that really have covered and looked into it, like Steffers, be like, Matt, link to the channel. There is no channel for Steffers. Every time I say the word, link to the channel, there's no channel. Every time we talk about somebody that investigates in our community, it doesn't mean there's a channel. There is no channel. It's somebody that blogs and investigates. She's nice and she's tough, like Lou. There's no channel. Relax. All right, let's start with this horse shit. Business Insider from roughly 5 or 6 weeks ago. The Great Purpling. Streetlights in a bunch of major cities are turning purple. Is it just a fluke or a warning of the chaos to come? Why would you title that? By the way, you'll see the article doesn't mention any chaos to come, like anarchy is going to break out in the streets. It's such a giveaway, when you title something like that. And by the way, early on, Magenta was linked to chaos, and specifically from, what's that stupid movie where they live under the dome with Chris Pine, My Darling, something like that. That she even says it, runs out in magenta dress and starts screaming something about chaos. So a very odd subtitle here. Business Insider, Adam Rogers. He meant nothing but a bot, sir. Adam Rogers. I started to read the article, but I thought 20% of you or 25% don't really even understand what I'm talking about with this Magenda. So for the old guard, those that know, just 3 minutes or less, I'll be very brief here. It really started to get the attention of Steffers and other researchers, although they had been looking at it before. But the big one was when Bono and the Edge performed this Ukraine benefit concert in the subway, or a Ukraine subway, that was backlit the entire concert in a hardcore magenta. Now, again, I believe Steffers and others had been looking at it, but this was like what you would say proof positive that, okay, this is part of the agenda going forward. Well, what the heck is going on? First off, we don't have a complete and full understanding of it. And what little we have would sound insane to anybody that doesn't run in our circles. But here goes. A new way to try to understand it is a little bit different. I've never presented this, but let's look at it like this first and then tie in all that we know. Mike over at the Sage of Quay channel recently, I think he did this in the last few weeks, just watched a presentation about, he's big into the research. Paul McCartney is dead, Paulism. And if anybody's throwing rubber duckies and saying, who cares if Paul McCartney's fake or not, or he has a double and he died a long time ago, and it's much, much bigger than that. It's actually a representation, Mike has determined, from the creep's perspective of basically ushering in a new age as it relates to the creeps. This whole presentation talked about the Paul is dead, the Paulism, as a symbol or some sort of symbolism for the age of Osiris from their perspective, moving into the age of Horus related to Pisces and Aquarius. These creeps, as alluded to earlier, are always trying to act out or bring a script of some kind, a plot and a plan into reality, into fruition. So Mike gave a pretty interesting presentation, how I'm sure there's many different ways they try to usher in the new age, as we're going to talk about the Magenta, but Paul is one of them, as weird as that sounds. Okay, the evidence that he's collected over time is overwhelming. Now, what Paul McCartney does, or Billy, whoever this guy that runs around on stage, is that by itself going to usher in a new era for creeps? No, I don't know, but I doubt it. They seem to do a million different things collectively. But one of the big ones that in some way symbolizes the next phase or the new age or the next era is a shift in color. We have looked at what is the emerald green and why it's presented up and down all over the place for 50 years, going back to the Wizard of Oz and everything else. Everything, it seemed, prior to the last 10 years, although we do have traces of this Magenta going back Magenta much farther than recently. But recently it's exploded in our face. And it has to do, in ways I don't understand, I can only try to interpret what these creeps are up to, in ways using color to actually influence the nature of reality itself. What the hell does that mean? It's beyond my pay grade, trust me. But other smart people generally agree with this consensus. Now, the Magenta is planned and implanted into the minds of the collective, like the Bono Edge subway concert. But we also believe it bleeds through reality in some way. It comes through without the creeps running around plotting and planning it. And that's the similar theme that we've talked about many times. There's too much going on across the board that we've noticed in general for it to all be Hillary Clinton types and Council on Foreign Relations types just making phone calls, putting people in place. Are you there? Are you ready to execute this one today? Do I have to do it? I don't want to get out of bed. No, you have to do it today because this star is right in the right place in Virgo. Get out of bed and do it. It's not just, it starts to, whatever they put in motion, it like starts to bleed through as well. So obviously the concert in Ukraine, it's not just random bleeding through. They obviously planted it. And people still should be screaming at us saying, Matt, as we are you guys are looking at it and you took the bait. They put it behind Bono and you and Steffers and others just talk about it and get thousands of real creative beings and generator beings to talk about it. And yes, we have to be very careful of that. If we are being used to propagate the Magenta, I don't know how to avoid that right now. But if the creeps are making a move or ushering in the next phase of an era or a reality that moves the collective conscious more towards the digital, that's also related to the Magenta theme. The best justification for talking about it is so we put our own armor up to whatever we think they're trying to do here. So should Mike not talk about Paulism, the religion of Paul McCartney, and that symbolism of ushering in the new age of Horus? Should he just not talk about it because potentially by us thinking about it, it might help them? That is a catch-22. But I think most of you would agree, what are our options? It's better to notice it, Somebody brings something to my attention. I try to analyze it, interpret it, bring it out to you. What's the other option? Somebody brings something to my attention, say, we shouldn't talk about this. We might actually help it out. So let's just put our head in the sand and let's read Hager the Horrible cartoons all day. We have to do this. What are you supposed to do? I've known about this, but I don't want to talk to you about it because we might be help propagating it. So let's just put our head in the sand and just hope it goes away. Like when a monster comes in to the room at night, you just pull your covers up and say, go away, sir. No, we have to talk about it. And as we get more information about not just this bullshit, but how reality itself works, we have benefited via these investigations. Have we been used? Has the truth community been used as an essential by these creeps for 15 years or going back to JFK and beyond? Of course we've been used, but we're not used as much today. We see when we're being used a lot more quickly, and we don't fall for it quite as quickly, do we, creeps? As we've talked about, magenta does not exist on the color spectrum from a wavelength perspective. Its opposite is the green, or more specifically, the emerald green. What is considered magenta has a wider range than most colors. It can be very pink at some times and still considered to be magenta, and it can be more towards a purple. And as far as I know, all the research I've put in, still considered to be magenta. It's not exact like a Texas Longhorn orange, this burnt orange. It's an exact hue, if that's the right word, or pigment. I don't paint. I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm not getting this exactly right, but it's exact. You got to take these exact code into your damn Sherwin-Williams. I want to paint my room Texas Longhorn orange. I'm a big Hook 'em Horns fan. Where the magenta is, it's a wide variety. So this says here, Aussies pay final respects to Queen. They lit up all the big buildings in magenta, where the birthday celebration for Queen, which just as a coincidence fell on the singer Prince's death. Oh, that's just a coincidence, and we're conspiracy theorists. But there's not but 1 in a million things that line up all day long about that. We'll talk about that some other time as we have. That was more purple, the purple RAIN, the purple REIGN. So they lit everything up in purple for Prince and the Queen. Back in the Queen's, was it the 92nd birthday celebration, whatever it is? Prince was dead in the elevator. Then when the Queen dies, this is Melbourne, but it was in many other places, they lit it up with magenta and called it purple. Look, guys, these examples, we have, I don't know how many have been sent in to me. It's off the charts. Dane, if you're listening, he drives around Chicago. He'll snap out his window. Look at this, Matt. This wasn't magenta before. This whole damn thing's magenta. Rob, who Free Voice hosts that for us, he snaps stuff. Look at this horse shit. This building is now magenta. It's all lit up. Okay, Disney is all magenta. We've seen it over and over and over. They certainly plant it in front of the collective conscious whenever they can, but I personally believe, and I believe others would agree, that in a way it also bleeds through reality itself. Where I was kind of joking about the dress, the famous pink wool dress, Jackie, and portrayed in the movie by Natalie Portman, and joking said, is this dress becoming more magenta over time? I do believe that that's possible, and it bleeds through reality in other areas. When it's related in a way to the Mandela effect, I'm not going to turn this into a Mandela effect presentation. When Glenda, the good witch, what was she, a good witch of the South, I guess? Just, you be gone. You have no power here, she says to the wicked witch of the... You be gone, Santa Claus Schwab. You have no power here in South Philly. Get lost. She then goes away. All the monkeys go, bye. She goes away as the magenta. Why? I thought she's supposed to be the good witch. Maybe she was the worst witch of all, keeping Dorothy in the illusion where she could have just told her ass how to get out the first 2 seconds. Maybe that's why she floated away as the magenta ball. And some people would say the ball never was magenta. It's morphed or changed like a Mandela effect, but let's not get too crazy. So just to summarize and wrap it up before we start looking at the streetlights, as simple as possible, the creeps are using this color to affect reality itself in some way. Well, Matt, explain. Nobody can explain it other than maybe a few creeps. It also, as it comes out, it propagates itself, and in a way it bleeds through reality, represents where they want reality to go. Again, they're working on reality in all different ways, similar to what I talked about Mike's research on Paulism, and that symbolism to usher in a new age. Things Levette has talked about related to astrology and the change from Pisces to Aquarius. I mean, I think they don't just tackle it on one front. They're anti-real people like you and me on all fronts. So Magenta, it brings relates to chaos, relates to, in my opinion, their attempt to move a real spiritual conscious being that has consciousness here more towards the digital, and eventually, per creeps like Ray Kurzweil, purely into the digital. It represents a lot of things, but hey, you know what? It's not good, and I believe we are not powerless when we see it. Or, no, I'm not saying we should throw affirmations out as we search Google Images, but if you turn the corner on Market Street in Philadelphia and there's the Magenda, and it's different. A little kid just coloring book magenta, you don't have to say, that's cursed, son, put that away. No, it's a color. It's okay. As I showed you, that flower, the one flower I had on my deck, it was dying, and I'm like, was this magenta? And I started watering it, and I showed you the rebloom. It was pure magenta. It's a beautiful thing. That flower was not of Santa Claus Schwab. It's how they use it, how they hijack it. So again, don't rip some coloring book away from some kid. But when you go turn the corner and the new Apple store in your city's all lit up in the magenta, you think that's the Magenda. Take power away from it right there and then. Who cares if the people in the street think you're crazy? Just don't get hauled off. You're finally going to read the article, Matt? This channel, I told you in most videos, are not for you bathroom boys. It's for the long-haul trucker, the forklift operator, the farmer that's harvesting legumes, whatever a damn legume is. It's for them. You bathroom boys, you got other places to be, people to see. Get lost. I ain't going to get to it. The sky over the city of Vancouver was the color of a television tuned to a Prince concert. Okay, maybe not the whole sky, but enough of it that people noticed. A bunch of streetlights, a few hundred out of thousands, had suddenly changed. What had been moonshine white, was now blue or purple or even violet, or magenta, you jackass. They weren't any less bright, objectively speaking, but purple doesn't exactly illuminate a sidewalk the way white does. The spectrum of Vancouver had taken a hard turn left. It didn't look bad. It wasn't unsafe particularly. It was just weird, you think? Look, they're going to call it purple. Let's just assume a real individual wrote this, not some bot. They're not going to talk about it in terms of magenta. It's a purple, but there's no doubt when you see the pictures that you can put it inside the definition of magenta, or I wouldn't be talking about it. Many do look more purple than magenta. Of course, I believe this is related. You don't replace thousands of street lights that have been white since 1958, and you'll see the excuses they have here. Of course, it's all part of the same agenda. Agenda? I can't even say the damn word right anymore. So people placed worried calls to the city, and after all the hue and cry, Vancouver rolled out the utility trucks and set out to replace the chromatic aberrations, even though the lights were still pretty new. Like most other cities, Vancouver has spent the past few years switching from old sodium vapor streetlights to, to LEDs. Yeah, Steffers is screaming at me. Matt, talk about that affecting the nature of reality. And yes, I'm not as well versed as you are, Steffers, but yes, they are. This whole LEDs right from the headlamps put into your car 15 to 20 years ago is all part of this as well. Let's continue. The new bulbs, basically arrays of computer chips that convert electricity to light, are cheaper, less power hungry, and longer lasting. That's how they justify the conversion to LEDs and all that horse shit that they gave you to replace your old light bulbs with starting about 15 years ago. Don't you know, Matt? Don't you care about the planet? They're cheaper, they're less power hungry, and longer lasting. Don't you want to protect the environment, you low-life son of a beach? There's always a justification for their evil. LED streetlights are supposed to shine for the better part of a decade. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Oh, you can't have it both ways. If you put all this horse shit in, then you're still going to cry global charming. You're still going to, what was the other? Primate primate change? You're still going to cry. If you do all this, then you're going to cry that. You can't have it both ways, you son of a beach. Here's one of the keys, backing up a bit. The new bulbs, basically arrays of computer chips that convert electricity to light. This is the crux of the problem, guys. We'll never figure out exactly how the creeps are doing this or what exactly their intentions are, but let's just go back to the basics. This is the basics are the best way to strengthen our own armor. It affects consciousness. All right, Steffers would agree. The whole world is about replacing what was a natural light bulb, the incandescent. That word's going the way of the dodo bird, isn't it? Incandescent. Now, for some reason, I don't know why, even before I was into all this truth stuff, I just sensed that all these horrible bulbs started showing up at the hardware store. All this LED crap, and I didn't know anywhere near what I know. For some reason, I started to hoard regular light bulbs, and I still have like 20 left. And Steffers would agree, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but in some weird way, the constant bombardment via the LED light affects, let's just at the basic level, affects consciousness. Who knows what its effect on reality is related to these, as we'll see, the magenta or the purple streetlights. But if it stems from a computer, who knows what sort of message or, yeah, I mean, this sounds crazy to anybody stumbling upon this, but does it facilitate a mind control, that wavelength, or like a passivity, like fluoride? Absolutely, in some way. Maybe we'll never understand it. But all this LED, I'll give you a personal example. We just can't avoid it. You know, other than the 20 bulbs I have left, I mean, there's nothing, I'll never be able to get those incandescent bulbs back. The old lamps are probably going away. I had these 2 dome lights, you know, the hallway I've filmed a bunch of times, that Bootsy and Puss peed all over with the bags. By the way, Puss is now returned to the litter box because, you know, Bootsy had to be put down. She was simply following what her big sister was doing. It's incredible. She has returned to the litter box. I'm just jumping for joy here. But anyway, we'll talk about that some other time. I had these 2 old, they were put in when the house was built, probably in 1974. The dome lights above the hallway. And they each had like 4 old bulbs, and they were just crap. I mean, one was falling down a bit. So I went to replace them. And I went to Home Depot, and all they have is this new LED crap. And it said you get like 50,000 hours. I'm not joking. 50,000 hours of continuous use. And there is no bulb. I opened up the glass, like, well, what the heck is this? It literally looks like a motherboard. It looks like a computer chip, just like what's presented here. And Steffers would say that is the worst thing in the world. So I had one from another room I was going to throw out, the old-fashioned kind. You screw in the bulb, the old heavy dome lights. I put that in because it's the only one I had, and then the other one I had, at the other part of the hallway, I had to use the horrible Home Depot LED. But it is a computer chip. And who knows, when you propagate this and replace the old incandescent, which was the closest thing to natural light, replace it with this, and who knows what message or what sort of weird frequency can carry along through this LED light. You know, when you've replaced now millions of these, tens of millions, we don't think that's going to have an effect on the collective consciousness of the population. Maybe this is one of the reasons your cousins act so strange, or we seem like we're so far away from the ship of fools as it sails. Steffers, I think, would say what they've done with the light spectrum itself, primarily through these LEDs, is actually one major reason there's such a big divide between you and those in the ship of fools. If you're driving, this is a picture inside the article of one of these street lamps. It's just a street lamp over a car, and it's magenta. Okay, you don't need to see it. They're called the Great Purpling. You could call it purple, but this absolutely is inside the definition of magenta. No doubt about it. So it says, the city of Manhattan, seen any purple streetlights around town? Well, they put off a serious cat's vibe. It's actually a manufacturing defect of some LED bulbs, according to Evergy. The manufacturer is taking full responsibility to replace them. They should be swapped out over the next 4 to 6 months. It's just, as you'll see in the article, just a defect in the manufacturing. Oh, sure. I mean, it is incredible how they pass this shit off and the masses believe it. Like, no, they have no quality checks. They're going to put out 40 million bulbs without checking one. It would be caught immediately if they turned purple or their chemical composition was a little off, so they were putting out the magenta and the purple. After an hour on the assembly line, somebody would catch it and say, stop the press, stop the run, we have a problem here. Oh, but they just went out, millions of them went out, nobody knew. This is actually what they try to, this is actually what they successfully pass off to the jackasses around us. Oh, we didn't know. It's a manufacturer defect. Hundreds of millions went out before it was caught, when in actuality they're probably checking every 100th bulb or whatever, checking a bulb at once every 10 minutes or so. Come on, sir. The rest of the world that's zombified may be buying this shit, but we're not. I'm jumping around or skipping around in how I'm presenting this article for a few reasons. Let me continue to read. In the case of Duke Power, the color shift has affected only about 1% of the LED streetlights that the utility had installed. Still, that amounts to some 5,000 lights across the country. So what's causing the purple rain? REIGN. Now, why would you put that in the sentence? They're so sinister. And this article has certain phrases that we'll look at that just like this, that actually highlights the real agenda. It turns out the problem is upstream. Over the past decade or so, the LED light business has consolidated, and a company called Acuity Brands now dominates the U.S. market. Every city with purple lights that responded to my queries or has public records on the matter bought its LED lights from Acuity. And from 2017 to 2019, it seems Acuity had a problem right where technology and globalism overlap. Another little hint of a line that has a dual meaning. Who wrote this? Aleister Crowley? I mean, give me a break. Now, the regular dumbass dope reads this article. Oh, this is a problem. It's just a Honey, I read the article in full. It's just a manufacturing defect. They caught it. They're going to replace the lights eventually. Yes, see, the manufacturer didn't know. It didn't. Even the dumb wife in the other room screaming like it, or husband. I don't mean to offend anybody. Screaming in the other room. Well, how could they have not known? Don't they do quality control for every 100 lights? They went out for years and nobody knew? Well, that's what the article says, honey, and the article wouldn't lie to us. You don't think Business Insider would lie to us, do you, honey? You're not becoming one of those people, are you? Oh, nobody knew, and everybody got them from Acuity. Literally, if anybody believes tens of millions of lights could go out and there was a defect in the manufacturing and nobody knew they were purple, and if you believe that, not anybody listening to this, but if you mention this to your cousin and they believed it, as Bill Cooper would say, they're one of the dumbest people on the face of the earth. But in business school, we're taught about quality controls and how they check so many that come out. Even Lucy, why do you think she was shoving all those damn things in her mouth? She had to eat every third one. That was quality control. That's the way I understood it. That's the way they presented it to me in business school. Not that they were coming too fast. She had to eat 1/3 of them, make sure they were good. That's what it was told to me. So we learned that our entire life in the business school. We learned if the Austin Powers penis pump, just 5 of them go out without the squeezer. You know, the thing you squeeze so the pump works. Then they catch it immediately, and the next day they start shipping legitimate Austin Powers penis pumps, not my bag baby products. But this company ships millions and tens of millions of bulbs, probably hundreds of millions, across half the United States, and nobody fucking plugged it in to see that it was purple. Do you believe how stupid the masses are at this point? Skipping a bit, so let me just read it to you. A deeper look into that last part, though, can be illuminating. Just the way, this is presented. It just screams for an insider, from Business Insider, to read between the lines. Bottom of the first paragraph. The chip is pretty reliable. It's the package that has all the problems. See, a key here, there's always a chip, a computer chip, associated with an LED or this type of light. The light that's replacing whatever old bulbs used to exist throughout the entire world is driven by a chip. Now, why would that be, Santa Claus Schwab? Let's continue, second paragraph. What kind of problems? Acuity, the manufacturer, and the purple cities haven't been entirely transparent on the matter. Most of the wonky streetlights, it turns out, came from an Acuity sub-brand called American Electric Lighting. Neil Egan, an Acuity representative, tells me that, quote, the referenced blue light effect occurred in a small percentage of AEL fixtures with components that have not been sold for several years. The company's been replacing every city's lights under warranty. As to the cause of the purpling, the magenta-ing, he says it's phosphor displacement seen years after initial installation. In other words, some kind of trouble in the fancy package surrounding the LED. Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm buying this. Representatives of the affected cities offer a little more detail. Quote, the purple streetlights are a result of the phosphor coating delaminating from the LEDs, says Fiona Broom Hughes, a representative for the city of Vancouver. Brooks of Duke Power points to the same cause. There's a laminate on the fixture that gives it its white color, he says. As the laminate begins to degrade, it causes the color tint to change towards purple. See, all of that shit, the regular person, they got their morning coffee, they got the damn toast. Honey, you burnt the toast. You burnt the toast. You got the sausage. They don't understand a damn bit of what was just read, just like I don't. But then at the end they go, okay, smart people know the problem, and smart people are going to fix it. That's all the reason for this entire bit of horseshit, just so people take away that smart people are in control, and they're going to fix it. Just give them time, honey. Our street will once again be white, not this purple horse shit. And in the classic pattern of articles meant for the dumbed-down masses, there's a whole bunch of complicated stuff that the masses aren't supposed to understand. Then they'll always summarize it. So it was a little premature, but I found this at the end. I find so often that companies don't really know what they're buying, Pecht says. They're looking at price. It's really a supply chain management problem. Okay, they dumb it down. It's just a manufacturing defect, and that's the message that goes to the masses. The reason I'm pointing this out, this is the final dumbed down summary, is they actually are weaving in the global supply chain manufactured problem that they're presenting to all of us, that seem to start with the chips that aren't available, so new cars can't be bought, and all this stuff, all created, all by design, all a bunch of horseshit. So whether probably unconsciously or subconsciously to the dumbed down masses reading this, they're actually weaving in the theme that they've been trying to propagate since the beginning of CV about global supply chain management problems. And that's a whole nother video, why they've been pushing that to the extent they have. And it's, of course, to introduce chaos, to make your life miserable, but other reasons as well we'll explore in future videos. This is more towards the beginning of the article, a few words in. Because the Great Purpling didn't start or end in Vancouver, reports stretch back to 2020 and across the hemisphere: Wisconsin, North Carolina, Florida, New Mexico, California, even Ireland. It's something we began seeing about 2 years ago, says Jeff Brooks, a representative for Duke Power, which is responsible for streetlights across the Carolinas and parts of Florida and the Midwest. I've had people call and ask if this was because it's Halloween or because their football team in that area wears purple. Again, look, started in 2020. I've been wrong in it would be hundreds of millions that went out. And they're saying nobody caught it and it was a supply defect. Okay. It isn't ghost or football related, and it isn't some grand conspiracy. Though, what was I thinking? Though lots of people saw in the synthetic twilight the effects of 5G radiation or government surveillance, a sign of the times, there's nothing shady going on here. But still, streetlights aren't supposed to spontaneously change color. Yeah, in reading this and the bot that put this forth, I feel ashamed of myself. Matt, you're presenting this like it's some conspiracy, like the creeps are using this color in some way. And, in reading this, I really do feel ashamed of myself. And I'm going to shut this video down now because this clearly told me it's no conspiracy. And you'd have to be a jackass like me to believe that it is. Last paragraph. So I did a little digging. The mystery of the purple lights appears to be both more mundane and more worrisome than anyone has realized. A mood indigo check engine light on the entire infrastructure of modernity. We'll get back to that. When LED streetlights start changing color for no apparent reason, it's a visual cue, that we might need to rethink just a bit how we build the future. The build out of the future. Oh, maybe there is some credibility to what this conspiracy jackass Matt is presenting. There's a lot of layered shit in the way this son of a bitch has layered and written this article if he's not a bot. But let's go back. What does it say here about indigo? Where the hell was that? It's a mood indigo check engine light on the entire infrastructure of the modern economy. Indigo is the color, the chakra color associated with what? Pineal gland, third eye, right? The violet or Roy G. Biv, violet would be the crown. One down, the third eye or pineal gland. So look, I'm tying this whole rollout of the damn purpling of the street lights, of course, to potentially a build out of the Magenta. But even if I'm wrong about that, it's still sinister, unlike what this jackass presenting. It's still a sinister conspiracy because, the dropping of indigo there in the article, not like, is this guy some 33rd degree insider writing this article? But it just got me thinking, maybe the indigo is associated with the pineal gland and third eye. Do the street lamps act like a fluoride to pacify or to further calcify, in a way, the pineal gland, or the opening of the third eye, which is the opening to illumination, which starts with seeing through the trick of the creeps and the ridiculous presentations. So maybe if I'm just thinking, either way it's sinister, okay? Either way it is a conspiracy, unlike what this jackass is presenting. 45 million or 400 million streetlights don't go out wrong and purple. Oh, we didn't know. Go, sure. It's to do something. Now, either way, whether it's related to the magenta, or the calcification of the pineal gland because he's dropping the indigo, whatever it is, it's sinister. And the only point to take away from all this is it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you can see that they're trying to do something to you, a real spiritual being, and trying to affect real consciousness. What are they exactly trying to do, Matt? Now we have it doesn't matter what they're trying to do. We'll never truly understand their creepy intended outcomes. All that matters, 100%, is where we are right now. Once again, like we've done over the past 12 to 15 years, is we can see that they're up to something. Anybody listening to the sound of the words coming out of my mouth think they're not up to something? Anybody here stumbling upon this think that 400 million streetlights went out by accident and they didn't know they were purple? Okay, they're up to something. What exactly they're up to doesn't matter. What's important is to notice it, to see this is part of a trick of some kind. And what are they out to do? Yes, anyone in the back? Anybody? Raise your hand. They're out to in some way degrade real spiritual consciousness, or move it down towards the digital, or calcify the pineal, or get people to not understand what they're here to do in life for themselves. Yes, all the same answers. That's right. It's the same agenda, no matter whether it comes in the form of a street lamp or a laughing Robbie Bibby Bibby Bobby, whatever form it comes in, it's all out to do the same thing. So noticing, again, another trick, just helps us strengthen our own armor, like it needs to get any stronger. For most of us, it can't get any stronger, but I guess in some ways, for the old guard in the front rows, it's fun to see through the tricks, right? They're so pathetic. And the last aspect of this, haven't done for a while, but it's the stumbling upon this video laugh that we can get out of this. I mean, could you imagine if somebody stumbled upon this video and I'll do it again, but it's so funny. We're so far from the ship of fools that we are truly insane to these people. Somebody stumbles upon it and says, this guy's making a presentation. He sounds rational, intelligent, and lucid, but so did Hitler when he made his speeches at night in the temple, the remake of the Temple of Pergamum. This guy's saying that these purplish, bluish streetlights, there's some sinister conspiracy here to harm your soul. Or come listen to this, honey. This he's out of his mind. He's out there like Pluto. And per the standards and metrics of what is considered normal on the ship of fools, in its current location, wherever that may be, on the river of insanity, per its standards of normality, that didn't come out, per its standards of normality, they would be right. We would be insane using their standards and metrics. That's how far we are from the ship of fools. It would be completely believable to those on the ship of fools that potentially hundreds of millions of these bulbs could have gone out and been installed all over the country and in various countries, and it was just a mistake. Nobody intended purple, Matt. Don't you understand the mistakes that can happen during the manufacturing process? When anybody with a degree of common sense, the first guy that went up on a ladder in Duluth, he screwed it in. He's like, what the hell? This is what would happen the first time it was screwed in, okay? See, we hold on to a standard of common sense that doesn't exist today. Therefore, we're insane. Some guy, we go up in a pole, and he'd screw it in, and he'd go in Duluth. What the hell is this? He would shine, try it, Fred, turn the light, put the light, fool it, make it seem like it's night so we can test the damn things. We just got a whole pack of these damn things from Acuity. It's purple. Should we continue to install them? Hell no. If we don't send these back right away, they might not honor the warranty. We can't install these purple things up and down the city. You want to lose your job, Fred? I don't. What do you think the mayor's going to do when he sees this? Well, the mayor's on the download. He's a not nilk minion. Of course, nothing. He's going to smile and walk his dog under the damn lights, but maybe the guy screwing it in is a real person. They wouldn't have installed them. They would immediately picked up the phone and said, what is this horse shit purple that you sent us? That would have been the first one that was screwed in. But millions and millions were installed. And you just wonder about, Matt, the people installing them. You're assuming they're real spiritual beings. If they're background characters, then of course they would see nothing wrong. They would see it as a purple improvement. See, it just proves how there just might not be that many real people here. Because can't you see the first time that it was screwed into the first city, the first 10 down the first block on Main Street all lit up purple? They would go, what the hell is this? It would stop. So how does it propagate? How does it get to the point where whole cities are lit up like this? Didn't anybody question it? You get into this, how did the conversation go down thing. It kind of relates to the most incredible, how did the conversation go down? Who was in it? That's how you know reality doesn't work this way. Where I'm going to go. The most fascinating thing of all time, the 2001, the big event in 2001, the submission of the 7-Eleven convenience store job application. We'll just say guy for this. Who's the guy in the meeting that says, what are we going to do? Does anybody here having an idea what we can do for the new millennium? It's like 1992 or something. Matt, this conversation did take place in 1650. What can we do for the new millennium? Some guy down the end raised his hand. Well, I have an idea. And then he described everything we saw. And everybody else around the table went, that's a pretty damn good idea. There was never a guy that raised his hand or offered up what should be done on that day. It's a reality breakdown. Somebody had to propose the idea, Matt. No. Once you understand how weird this reality is, nobody had to propose the idea. But it's the same with this. Who's the first guy that screwed in the first 5 lamps and it was kind of getting dark? Say it was the summertime, 8 o'clock, 8:10, and they start turning on and they're all purple. Who does he call? Does he take them out? Does he say, I like the new color? See, it all starts to break down. You know, how it could propagate so quickly, how the whole world could be put in a face covering in 4 to 6 weeks. There's a whole series of what you would call spells, black magic, reality buttons and levers we don't understand, or I only see two possibilities. I don't like when only two possibilities are presented, or there's very few real people here. And the masses, and 99% or how many ever people, simply go along with what the not nilk wants to present without questioning it. The people that screwed in the street lights and the first night they found out what they got in the box was a purple horse shit, they just went along with it. Oh, this must be the new color, and nobody questioned. That means those people are either so spiritually degraded or they're NPCs. Either way, jackass that wrote this article, it is a gigantic conspiracy. But you wouldn't see the conspiracy unless you're a real person, like the people listening to this. We've been talking a lot about their pushing of the term the new normal. And are they constantly testing and retesting, where there seems to be pushback about these purple lights? Maybe they thought every city could be now bathed in purple and nobody would push back, and they didn't expect the pushback. So then Business Insider has to come out and try to explain it away. And, this is why we see so much purple in your streetlights. It's a manufacturing defect, of course, related to the general supply chain problem that was just created up and created by the not nilk system, and it doesn't really exist either, but we're going to make it seem and inflict pain on you while you wait for your damn car parts to come in. That's all part of the chaos agenda that they're brewing as they move us into their new sick age. So they're going to have to put these articles out like, oh, yeah, we're going to have to backtrack on this because people actually are seeing this and they don't want it and they are pushing back where maybe the pushback wasn't expected. Maybe the new normal from a not nilk perspective has to be tested from time to time. Everything they do to the population is a test, send it back into the Whopper computer, send it, and then the new ticker tape comes out and says, oh, we needed to do that damn rollout sooner. We needed better reason to explain why the cities are being lit up in purple and magenta. So maybe this one they do have to backtrack or pull their armies back a bit in terms of the purple rollout. But it's all a test and retest of what they could get away with. And then they take to the media, their bot article writers, to explain it all away. Oh, don't worry. It's just a defect, a manufacturing problem, and then you've got to put it right in the article. Oh, you didn't think it was a conspiracy or something. If you have a family member down at the end of the Thanksgiving table talking about that, they're just, of course, out to lunch. There's nothing sinister going on, and it makes the people, as they read the article over their toast and coffee, and it makes them feel so good that Business Insider says there's nothing weird going on, and they're going to fix the problem. They're going to remove the purple lights. So you get into, did they try to go too far with it? Or did it, if anybody's throwing a rubber ducky, I can hear you, Matt. This was like it just needs a spark to start a car. Sometimes you just need a jump start. Or just a rock needs to be pushed initially down a hill to start rolling. Maybe they needed this knowing they would have to roll it back, but putting this light frequency in so many thousands of different places across North America and other countries, maybe that they knew they would have to roll it back. They're going to try to keep it out there as long as they can, but in a way it was a push of some kind that they needed. In most cases, when I say test and retest back into the Whopper computer, and that assumes like in many cases they make mistakes and they don't know what they're doing, unfortunately, we have our armor on, it doesn't work on us, but from the masses perspective, unfortunately, they don't make too many mistakes. If they rolled out this light color across street lamps, I don't think they're taken by surprise that people are kind of saying, what is this and when will it be removed from my street? I think they know in most cases exactly what they're doing. And in some way, even if they have to eventually take every one of these lights out and screw it it'll be an LED, it'll still be sinister, but it will be white color at least. I mean, who knows? Maybe they figure that people just stop complaining about it and they'll just accept over time that their street will be lit up in purple every time the sun goes down for the rest of their life. I don't know. But in most cases, they don't make too many mistakes. They don't make too many mistakes in how they manipulate the masses. in terms of getting to us, it don't work on us anymore. People can't even sit in the front rows of this classroom anymore. The old guard, their armor's like the chainmail. The armor's so thick they can't even sit next to each other on the benches here. They should go clear fields. So anyway, guys, this is a revisiting of, I don't want to say Magenta as much as how they use the light spectrum, LED, how they use frequencies, colors, etc. Not just to get a population to behave, but to, in my opinion, to affect where the Ship of Fools is going, and the Ship of Fools is reality itself. So, creeps, here's another one. Put another notch in our belt. We see through this one, but in terms of us seeing through it, it doesn't matter to your cousin or your brother, the guy down the cul-de-sac. It's not going to matter what we say. In fact, if they heard what we're saying about this, we would even seem crazier to those sons of bitches. Thanks for listening.